would now like to invite Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to tell us how he views the situation and how a politician navigates this very difficult terrain. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Thank
you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to thank the Hina Institute for inviting me to this forum. I'm just coming from our joint parliamentary session on Kashmir. And I think it's significant that I'm coming from our joint parliamentary session on Kashmir, where we're talking about not only our own national security, but we're complaining about human rights violations in Kashmir. I would be able to I'd be able to oppose the human rights violations in Kashmir with far greater moral authority or our parliamentary joint session would be able to defend the rights of Kashmiri citizens and the abuses of human rights and oppose the human rights abuses in Kashmir had we the moral authority, had we defended the human rights of Pakistanis living in Pakistan. And that is why I think it's so important that on the very day that I was in the joint session, I'm also standing before you today, because we need to move. Pakistan needs to move away from a national security state towards a rights-based society. That's where the world is moving, and Pakistan needs to decide if it wants to move in that direction or if it wants to continue to look inward. We often hear the argument of security. The prominence of national security is not only an issue in Pakistan. In established democracies, we've watched how we've compromised on human rights. The champions of democracies have compromised on their human rights in the name of national security. So the fact that we have done so here in Pakistan, or so keen to do so here in Pakistan, is not unique, particularly given our cycle, our regular cycle of every 10 years that we go through between a slightly more democratic environment towards a more authoritarian environment, and that is the transition under new names, in a new guise, in a naya way that we're seeing today. It's a transition. It's a transition away from democratic ideals, from a more. There is no national security. There is no national security without a preservation of your rights. There is no security without the security of your fundamental rights. If you are not guaranteed the right to life, if you are not guaranteed a rule of law and the right to due process, then what is the point of security? We can only secure ourselves once we can secure our rights. And obviously, we want to secure individual Pakistanis' rights from non-state actors. But by no means can we allow that to mean that we will allow the state to infringe upon our rights. And unfortunately, we've been allowing that to happen. When I say we, I mean not only my political opponents across the aisle, all of us, Democrats, human rights defenders, we all transitioned away from these rights. We all stopped defending them as vociferously as we once used to, be it under Zia or under Musharraf, again, under fear of terrorism, under the desire to unite this country, to combat that. But now, we need to focus on moving away from a national security state to a rights-based state. And if you look at the past 10, 11, 12 years, we've transitioned. If you talk about governments, and obviously that's my job, I have to talk about a comparison between different political parties' governments. We've moved from, under the Pakistan People's Party government, from a government that was empathetic about human rights. No one in this room can deny, despite how critical they may be, that the Pakistan People's Party was at the very least empathetic towards human rights. Then we went through 5 years of a government that was apathetic about human rights. And now we have a government that is outright antipathy towards human rights or rights of any kind. So it falls upon us to now fight this battle. And it is not just a legal battle in the courts or a political battle on the floor of Parliament. It's a battle of hearts and minds. Because unfortunately, somehow, Democrats, human rights defenders, are losing a battle of hearts and minds amongst a segment of society who, in the name of national security, national interest, patriotism, religion, are more than willing to not only compromise on their rights, but on everyone's rights. And that's because we need to change the way we're thinking, the way we're educated. We need to make every Pakistani citizen, every child understand that the state belongs to the people. The people don't belong to the state. We have to make every Pakistani child understand that state institutions belong to the people. People don't belong to state institutions. We have to make every Pakistani child understand that even our economy, the economy belongs to the people. The people aren't a commodity to be traded. Their rights to be compromised, their economic rights to be compromised. They need to have a stake in this economy. And we won't have
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum.
national security without sign. How are we going to give the people of Pakistan a stake in this economy?
Are extractive
We need to.
and rent-seeking, and
need
that
to
they
make every
fail to
Pakistani-
actually deliver.
Every Pakistani child understand that the solution to our problems is not less democracy, it's not less rights, it's not less freedom. The solution to all our problems, whichever problem that Pakistan is facing today, is more democracy, and more democracy. And at this point in time, that's a challenge. At this point in time, that is a challenge. As you say, the enemy or the multiple enemies of democracy and human rights in Pakistan, they're not right in front of you as they are during a dictatorship. They're drunk on power. They're drunk on power, and they believe just because they can do something, they have gotten away with doing something. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it's always been.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
That's not the case.
Question on this.
And they really need to understand, every democratic force in this country really needs to understand that just as the people of Kashmir will not give up on their right to freedom, will not compromise on their rights come what may, the people of Pakistan, the democratic, peace-loving people of Pakistan, who were promised a pluralistic, democratic society by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, are not going to give up on that dream come what may. But the challenge before us now, and I seek your guidance and I look forward to a discussion on this, is how. If this is under Naya Pakistan, hum Naya Amriyat ka mukabla kar rahe hain. If this is dictatorship 2.0, then what is the resistance 2.0 going to look like? How are we going to fight back now? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. From empathy to indifference to antipathy, that is one way of looking at the last 12 years of our recent history. I will now open this up to questions, and I will exercise my right to ask you questions first. My first question is to you, Hina Jilani, and it is this: that here we are, and we're talking about citizenship and the constitution and security, and it is almost as if Pakistani history is in a loop. It's the same sort of cycle, democratic authoritarian cycle that repeats itself. And I put to you, I mean, we are very adept at criticizing politicians, we are adept at criticizing power centers that are deeply entrenched, oligarchies that refuse to give up their share of power. But I put this to you. We have seen a steady erosion of democratic values in our country. We have seen an erosion of the values of human rights, pluralism that we all claim to espouse. How do you respond to that? Do you think that that is the case?
If that was the case, I'd be very worried. I'm not very proud of the human material we have in this country. Let me be very frank. But at the same time, as I said, the hope is always in what Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari just said, democracy, democracy, and more democracy. We aren't happy with our politicians. But one belief that we have and to which we are committed is that the process must go on. We cannot have a democratic process without political parties. So while we may treat them as whipping dogs all the time, we must also remember that there's an elephant in the room. And Sherry has heard me say this before. उर्दू का मुहावरा है कि चीके का मुंह खुला हो तो बिल्ली तो आएगी. तो भाई साहब, चीके को तो आप गालियां देते हैं कि इसने मुंह क्यों खोला हुआ है. बिल्ली को भी कभी कोई समझा दे. तो भाई साहब, उस एलिफेंट को जो कभी कोई शक्ल धार के और कभी कोई और शक्ल धार के हमारे सामने खड़े हो जाता है और एक नेशनल माइंडसेट बना देता है कि ये सियासी जो तबका है ये तो सब चोर हैं और इनसे तो काम चलेगा नहीं. तो भाई साहब, आपने काम कब चलाया? इन सियासतदानों ने तो मुल्क के दो हिस्से नहीं किए. इन सियासतदानों ने तो एक्सट्रीमिज्म और मिलिटेंसी नहीं पैदा की. हाँ, ये जरूर था कि इनको खड़े हो जाना चाहिए था बहुत पहले. लेकिन अगर खड़े हुए हैं तो हम अब इनके पीछे होंगे क्योंकि वो हमारी वैल्यूज हैं और ये हमारी ज़रूरत है. आई एम सॉरी टू से, मैं उन लोगों से इख्तलाफ रखती हूँ जो कहते हैं कि दीज पॉलिटिशियंस आर डिस्पेंसिबल. दे आर इनडिस्पेंसिबल. ये हमारी ज़रूरत है. और अगर हम अपनी जमहूरियत को वैल्यू करना चाहते हैं तो मेरे अजीज हमवतनों, आप अपनी फलाह और अपनी बहबूद के लिए रियलिटी को पहचानिए. अगर हम अकाउंटेबिलिटी का जो मौजूदा प्रोसेस है, विंडिक्टिवनेस का जो मौजूदा प्रोसेस है, उसके खिलाफ बात करते हैं और हम ये कहते हैं कि आपने एक अच्छी चीज़ को एक बुरा नाम दे दिया है, तो हम सिर्फ इनके लिए नहीं कह रहे, हम कह रहे हैं उस रूल ऑफ लॉ के लिए जिसे हम प्रिजर्व करना चाहते हैं, इंस्टीट्यूशंस की उस क्रेडिबिलिटी के लिए जो अब इरोड हो रही है. यानी मैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट की वकील हूँ और मेरी अब उम्र ऐसी हो गई है कि मैं ये कह सकती हूँ और मुझे कोई आर नहीं है कि अगर इस पे कोई अदारा ऑफेंड होता है कि ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट जो लेगेसी छोड़ जाएगा वो बहुत अच्छी नहीं होगी. हमने बहुत वक्त देखे हैं जब जुडिशरी इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं थी, लेकिन फिर भी हम मैं वकील की हैसियत से और एक पॉलिटिशियन जो हर वक्त जेल में होता था उसकी बेटी की हैसियत से मुझे उम्मीद होती थी कि रिलीफ मिल जाएगी. आज मेरे पास कोई तड़पता हुआ आता है तो मैं घबराती हूँ ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी लेते हुए कि मैं इसको रिलीफ दिलवा सकूंगी या नहीं. तो मैं ओपनली आज ये बात कर रही हूँ. अगर आपने अपने अदारों को प्रिजर्व करना है तो इकट्ठे हो जाएं एक प्रिंसिपल्स के ऊपर. ये ना सोचें कि ये प्रिंसिपल इसको बचा लेगा या उसको बचा लेगा. ये खुश तो बड़े होते हैं, इट्स वेरी एंटरटेनिंग कि आज इसको पकड़ लिया, हा हा, आज इसको जेल में डाल दिया, हा हा. लेकिन यही वक्त जब आप इस तरीके से इरोड करते हैं अपने वैल्यूज को, अपने प्रिंसिपल विजिबिलिटी को, आप देख रहे हैं कि क्या तमाशा हो रहा है पिछले 3 सालों से. यू वॉन्ट टू गिव द डॉग अ बैड नेम एंड देन हैंग हिम. आप इस तरीके से लोगों को आपने रिजीम चेंज के लिए अकाउंटेबिलिटी और अदालतों को इस्तेमाल करना शुरू कर दिया. आप अगर ये होने देंगे तो फिर तो कोई चेंज आपके सामने नहीं आएगा। चेंज हम कैसे करेंगे? अपनी इंस्टीट्यूशन को सपोर्ट करें। मैं बिलावल भुट्टो जरदारी को सपोर्ट नहीं करूंगी सिर्फ, लेकिन मैं ये कहूंगी कि पार्लियामेंट आज वो अदारा है जिसे हमने मजबूत करना है। अगर आज हमारी फॉरेन पॉलिसी बननी है तो पार्लियामेंट बताएगी कि क्या फॉरेन पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए। अगर हमारी डिफेंस पॉलिसी बननी है तो पार्लियामेंट बताएगी कि क्या डिफेंस पॉलिसी होनी चाहिए। हमने बड़े तमाशे देख लिए हैं पिछले कई दहाइयों से, जिसमें हमें ऐसी सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशन में धकेल दिया गया है कि उससे हमें बाहर निकलना मुश्किल हो गया है। दुनिया में हम आइसोलेट हो गए हैं और हमें कहते ये हैं कि जो ह्यूमन राइट्स के लोग हैं ये शोर मचाते हैं, इसलिए हम बदनाम होते हैं। भाई साहब, जो आप करते हैं आप बदनाम उसकी वजह से होते हैं, हमारे कहने से नहीं होते। So these are some of the things I think we need to understand as citizens. We are not sitting in a power, a position of decision making, but we are certainly sitting in a position where we can make sure that our institutions feel supported enough and don't feel like criminals.
Our democratic institutions.
Our democratic
Yes.
institutions feel that they are supported. We need to support these institutions. मैं एक औरत की हैसियत से मुझे कहते हैं कि जी women must have a role in security issues and in peace and security. और लगा दिया है मुझे IDPs को देखने में। सारी उम्र हमारी होगी है कि जी औरतें जो है वो IDPs और इसमें काम करेंगी। I feel very proud when I work for IDPs, but that doesn't empower me. Feeling good and feeling empowered are two different things. आज हमारा नेशनल सिक्योरिटी इम्पेरेटिव्स क्या है, इसको डिटरमिन करने में मेरी क्या आवाज है? आपकी आवाज है? आप बताएंगे कि हमारे नेशनल सिक्योरिटी इम्पेरेटिव्स क्या आप डिटरमिन कर सकते हैं? हमें बता दिया जाता है और फिर कहा जाता है इस पे तुम सब एक्ट करो। आज तक हमसे यही कहा जाता है कि ये सिचुएशन आ गई है, अब सारे सैक्रिफाइस करें, कुर्बानियां दें। भाई साहब, आई एम डन विद कुर्बानी। ये मुल्क हमने कुर्बानियां देने के लिए नहीं बनाया था, हमने फ्रीडम के बेनिफिट्स उठाने के लिए बनवाया था। आई एम श्योर कि आप लोग जो बैठे हैं, जो उस वक्त वहाँ मौजूद थे जब पाकिस्तान बन रहा था, तो आप लोगों ने ये नहीं कहा था कि आओ पाकिस्तान बनाएं, बड़ा मजा आएगा, कुर्बानियां देंगे।
Okay, now that's a good point to move on. Bilawal Bhutto, you mentioned, and so did Jilani, you mentioned the people's economic rights, you mentioned the business of inequity, rising poverty in this country. I put to you, when we are faced with all of this conundrum, we are always told that it is the political parties that fail to deliver to people, that space is created for authoritarianism, that space is created for anti-democratic forces, because political parties are extractive and rent-seeking, and that they fail to actually deliver an improvement in the lives of people. That this is the crisis of democracy in Pakistan, that is in fact not that there are overweening power centers that seek to erode your liberties, but that the people tasked with preserving our liberties, our politicians, fail to do so. So how do you respond to that charge, and how do you see the culpability of democratic political parties in the mess that we are in or not?
Thank you. They say that, I don't think my voice is on.
The red thing is when it's on.
I thought red was off. Okay, good. Thank you. That's a great question, and it is the standard talking point of the establishment in Pakistan, that we're so lovely and we don't want to get involved in anything but to dislodge a democratic setup. Every civilian prime minister of Pakistan, every single one, has been removed on corruption charges. Not a single, barring the most recent, very controversial conviction, not a single civilian prime minister of Pakistan had been convicted of any such crime. They say that history repeats itself. First as a tragedy, and then as a farce. So I'm presuming that this is the farce. And that is what we're facing today.
if I have to respond to this argument, I must first admit that absolutely there's room for improvement in our democracy. There's most certainly room for improvement amongst our political parties. There's definitely room for improvement in how we govern. But when you ask, why did political parties fail to deliver? You have corruption in that, rent-seeking in that, political compromises. But the fundamental reason that no civilian prime ministers completed their term is not because they failed to deliver. It's because anti-democratic forces conspired and forced them out. And every time we tell ourselves that this time will be different. Every time we believe that we are pursuing corruption and accountability, and on fundamental rights. And national security is not an excuse. It has been used as an excuse, and as a result, neither have we met our national security objectives, and nor have we managed to progress as a society. And ultimately, the people of Pakistan are going to get fed up. We, as politicians, as responsible politicians, want to channel the emotions of the people towards parliament, towards democratic institutions. But if we consistently have parliament fail, and frankly, I am often extremely underwhelmed, embarrassed when I attend parliament. It upsets me that this highest body in the land has been so compromised and undermined. But if we've lost faith, and if the people lose faith in parliament, if people lose faith in judiciary, and I must second what was said, even during dictatorships, and I mean in dictatorships, my grandfather was hanged. In those dictatorships, my father was kept in prison for 11.5 years without a conviction, only to be acquitted of each crime after having come out. That I had more faith in the institution of the judiciary under dictatorship than I do today. And that is something I should never have to come to the point to say. And there are multiple reasons for that. I mean, one of the fundamental reasons is there was so much hope. There are expectations, once again, were played with by the lawyers' movement, the way that sort of trajectory has panned out. And it's now up to the judiciary, because there's nothing I can do, there's nothing you can do to increase their integrity. Because the integrity of the judiciary can't be enforced by contempt of court. The integrity of the judiciary cannot be enforced by removing people when the civilian supremacy was being targeted, when the very electoral process was being targeted. The highest judiciary in the land was building a dam. And we weren't allowed to question the dam because that was Article 6 treason. And none of these human rights concerns that are very pressing at all levels today, that have become, that there's a greater consensus about the concerns and the compromises that are made on this front. None of these human rights curtailments or abuses fit within this criteria of suo motu, but the dam did. So just as we have to, and absolutely there's to improve parliament, there's a whole host of things we have to do, but also improve political parties. But we have to improve all democratic institutions.
But
And the faith in those institutions can only be improved by the people within those institutions. They most certainly can be undermined by people without those institutions.
Thank you. I understand. I think both of you are suggesting that we are in a moment of what you see as a moment of constitutional authoritarianism, if you will. That it is not just enough to have a rule of law unless it is a rights-respecting rule of law. But that does not answer the fundamental question, and I really must insist on putting this to you. We have to confront either the limits of the democratic human rights discourse or the flaws of the democratic human rights discourse. Because if we are perpetually in this cycle, if you are unable to repeatedly, despite repeated attempts, and there have been repeated heroic attempts, and by politicians as well, who have lost their lives trying to fight these very forces. But the question is, to me, this is the fundamental question now. The fundamental question is, why is this repetitive cycle, and why is Pakistan's civil and political society unable to overcome this moment?
देखिए, flaws are not in democracy or in human rights. और दूसरी बात ये याद रखिए कि human rights जो हैं, वो कोई बहुत अच्छी आइडियल सिचुएशन के लिए नहीं बने थे, वो मुश्किलात के लिए ही बने थे, और उन मुश्किलात में ही उन वैल्यूज को प्रिजर्व करना आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और रियासत की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनाई गई थी. As I said, absence of peace and security doesn't justify non-respect for human rights. Compliance आपके ऊपर obligatory इसलिए बनाई थी कि बुरे वक्त ना आए, और अगर आए हुए हैं तो आप अच्छे वक्तों तक ट्रांजिशन करें. आप बजाय इसके कि डेमोक्रेसी और ह्यूमन राइट्स को आप ब्लेम कर रहे हैं कि चेंज नहीं आया. चेंज क्यों नहीं आया और रेपिटेशन क्यों होती है, वो उन 15 बंदों से पूछे जो 64 खड़े हुए थे और 50 वोट निकले थे. बजाय इन पॉलिटिशियंस को कटहरे में खड़ा करके और इनसे कहें आहा आप हार गए. रू तो हमें ये करना चाहिए, रिग्रेट तो हमें ये बात करनी चाहिए कि भाई साहब 64 जो खड़े थे उनमें से 15 किधर गए, और 15 जो गए उनका ज़मीर नहीं है, इनका कसूर नहीं है कि वो 15 नहीं खड़े हुए, 15 वोट कम हो गए. They were the victim. 14 या जितने भी थे. You see, this is what worries me. कि हम जिस एक हादसे को जो कहते हैं ना, क्या कहते हैं उसको, जो आपकी जर्नलिस्टिक टर्म में एक खास शक्ल दे देते हैं और वो स्पिन दे देते हैं. तो वो जो स्पिन है उसको आपने काउंटर करना है और बड़ी अग्रेसिवली करना है, क्योंकि वही स्पिन है जो आपके लोगों में एक माइंडसेट को उभार रही है. और जब इस किस्म की हुकूमतें आती हैं तो आप नोट करेंगे कि जो हमारे वर्स्ट इंस्टिंक्ट्स है ना वो उजागर होते हैं. हमारी हेट्रेड उजागर होती है, हमारी वायलेंस उजागर होती है. तो ये सब चीज़ें हमारे हाथ में भी हैं. टू एन एक्सटेंट यू आर राइट, बट द पॉइंट इज फिंगर पॉइंटिंग भी जरूरी है, लेकिन सही तरफ करें. ये रिपीट क्यों होता है? ये इसलिए तो नहीं होता कि हमारे जैसे लोग खामोश हो गए. हम तो बोल रहे हैं. ऐसे लोग तो मेरे ख्याल में अयूब खान के वक्त में भी बोले, वो बाकी रजीम्स, ज़ियाउल हक, मुशर्रफ, जो भी अथॉरिटेरियनिज्म के उसके खिलाफ बोलते रहे. हमारा देखिए, मैं जब विमेंस मूवमेंट की जिना के लॉ के हवाले से जब हम काम कर रहे थे, 25 साल नहीं ना बदला था कानून, तो मुझे लोगों ने ताने देने शुरू किए कि हमें 25 साल हो गए, आपको माल रोड पे खड़े हुए प्लेकार्ड लेके आप खड़ी हुई हैं, डाउन विद जिना ऑर्डिनेंस ऑल, एंड यू हैव गेन्ड नथिंग एक्सेप्ट वेट. तो भाई साहब, दैट वाज नॉट द ओनली थिंग आई गेन्ड. जिस वक्त 1988 में इलेक्शन हुआ, कौन आया? एक खातून प्राइम मिनिस्टर बनाई आपने. आपकी हर पॉलिटिकल पार्टी इंक्लूडिंग जमात इस्लामी ने खवातीन का राइट्स अपने मैनिफेस्टो में रखे. अब इससे बड़ी, जब आपने औरतों के राइट्स को पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा का एक हिस्सा बना दिया, इससे बड़ी जीत हम और क्या आपके लिए ला सकते थे माल रोड पे खड़ा होकर. And this is what I'm saying.
So you
And
are-
it is the fault doesn't lie with either human rights, democracy, or people who are speaking against what is happening.
No, of
The
course.
fault lies with those people who have no conscience.
I understand that you are saying that the fight for pluralism and democracy and rights is incremental and slow, and there are many setbacks, and this is a long process. But in the interest of abhi aapki bari nahi aayi hai, but aayegi abhi. But in the interest of having a good discussion, which is why I'm here, I would like to ask you, why is it that in Turkey, a far more authoritarian state, the price of a coup has risen to the point where people can stand on the streets, stand in front of those tanks, and foil that coup? Why is it कि यहाँ टीवी स्टेशन को जाके टेक ओवर करते हैं लोग, बाकी सब सोते रहते हैं, किसी को पता ही नहीं चलता, सुबह तक coup भी हो चुका होता है? ये क्यों है? ये ऐसा क्यों है? वहाँ क्या बदला और यहाँ क्या नहीं बदला? ये सवाल है, और ये I think this is the fundamental question.
हमारी हिस्ट्री भी मुख्तलिफ है, हमारे लोगों की जो एक कंडीशनिंग है वो भी मुख्तलिफ है, और ये बात भी दुरुस्त है कि अंधों में काना राजा बन जाता है. तो अगर हमारी फ्लॉज की वजह से कोई अपने आप को इनविंसिबल समझता है तो ये भी उसकी गलती है, क्योंकि हम आहिस्ता आहिस्ता हम भी बेहतर होते जा रहे हैं, हमारे फ्लॉज भी ख़त्म होते जा रहे हैं. तो ये जो अपने आप को इनविंसिबल समझते हैं और ये समझते हैं कि ये हमारी पॉलिटिकल ज़िंदगियों को हमेशा मैनिपुलेट करेंगे, ये भी समझ जाएं कि आज सिविल सोसाइटी भी बड़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग है, यहाँ पर एनर्जेटिक लोग भी हैं. आज बहुत से आम लोग जो पहले कोई और ज़बान बोलते थे, आज अपने ज़बान भी, अपना नैरेटिव भी बदल रहे हैं, और इस नैरेटिव को जो हमारे ऊपर थोपा जाता है उसको चैलेंज भी कर रहे हैं. तो ये बात दुरुस्त है कि हम अभी एक सिचुएशन में हैं जिसको हम कहते हैं ट्रांजिशन. हमारी ट्रेजेडी ये है, और बहुत से ममालिक की है, कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन भी बन जाती हैं, अथॉरिटेरियन रूल खत्म हो जाता है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बन जाती है, असेंबलियाँ भी आ जाती हैं, लेकिन फिर भी हमारी मुश्किलात ख़त्म नहीं होती, क्योंकि हम बड़े आराम से हाथ बांध के कहते हैं कि हम अभी ट्रांजिशन में. भाई साहब, ये परपेचुअल स्टेट ऑफ ट्रांजिशन जिसमें हम ट्रैप हुए हैं, इसमें से हमें वक्त तो लगेगा, लेकिन हम निकलेंगे.
Now I must request Bilawal Bhutto also to engage with this. What do you think? What do you think is the way forward, Bilawal? Do you think that this Turkish comparison holds? Do you think that?
I think that the Turkey, the reaction to the Turkish coup, comparison to the recent Turkish coup attempt with the 1999 coup is unfair. And we are yet to see how the people of Pakistan will respond to a coup today. Coup karke dikhaye, Pakistan ke awam bahar niklengi, Pakistan ke awam bhi गैर जमहूरी ताकतों के सामने खड़े होंगे, और शायद इसलिए आज हमारे सामने नहीं है, शायद इसलिए आज हम 2.0 का आमरीत और नया आमरीत का मुकाबला कर रहे हैं. इसलिए वो भी जानते हैं कि पाकिस्तान के अवाम जमहूरियत ही चाहते हैं और जमहूरियत के लिए लड़ेंगे. And while we are watching a reversal in Pakistan's sort of progress, we also know that we're standing in a very different moment at this point in time. And I think we will resist. Now, that doesn't mean that they may not succeed or the resistance may not succeed, but I think you'll find, absolutely, you'd find resistance. As far as your question is concerned as to what is, how there's absolutely room for improvement within democratic parties, and there's most certainly room for improvement within perhaps the way we go about doing our activism also. We should always be looking towards that. But the focus, I'll talk myself, my own focus towards improving governance, improving service delivery, is going to be, there's only 24 hours in a day. And of those 24 hours, I'm either going to fight for saving democracy and human rights and freedom of the speech, or I'm going to do what my job is. And if every time you're going to force us to go back to that original fight, and then say, why are you not delivering as well as you could or you should? Anti-democratic force. I mean, we always like to throw about money as the accusation, or etc. But there's blackmail, there's coercion, there's threats that people face. Yeah. So, हमने इस पूरा सूरत हाल को देखना है. And we are caught in a perpetual state of transition. But there's also a young generation of Pakistanis that are just getting started. And you see that everywhere. It's not just in Sindh or in my party or in other places. You see it with young politicians from Fatah. You see it with young Pakistanis you meet within Pakistan, without Pakistan. We are not only aware of our rights, but also aware that the world is a different place today. And Pakistan wants to be able to be a part of the modern world. We do not want to go back to what was before.
It is, as a follow-up, I think that this conversation has been interesting, has been highly conceptual, and has dealt with ideas and concepts rather than specifics. There is, to you, Bilawal, I want to ask, I mean, what motivates you to be a democratic politician, particularly with your family history? I mean, like, really, things have not, ended well earlier, and so what motivates you? What motivates you to do this?
Okay, so I think there's two things to point out on this. One, that it's really far easier in Pakistan to be an establishment politician. It is more profitable. It is more comfortable. And it is better for your career trajectory. But I am not in politics in Pakistan for my career trajectory. I'm not in politics in Pakistan for profit. Absolutely, we've suffered a lot, and for other people, that's a political narrative. It's a story. It's something you've read in the paper and seen on TV. But for me, it's my life. It's my mother. It's my uncles. It's my father. It's my grandfather. And so, just as much as that might seem like something that would scare you, would break you, would demotivate you, it is also the source of my inspiration and what drives me. The fact that so much has been sacrificed, and as you say, this country was not built for sacrifice, and we asked Pakistanis to be far too brave and to sacrifice far too much. But after all that sacrifice, what drives me as a son is the idea that I'm working to achieve my mother's unfinished agenda. And that is what allows one to get up in the morning and what allows one to face the reality of Pakistani politics.
And do you believe that in your lifetime, that in your career as a politician, you will in fact achieve, that you will in fact see the parliamentary supremacy that you think is lacking today? Do you think that that is likely to happen?
So I would say that 3 years ago, I was far more optimistic about that than I am today. But absolutely, I believe it will happen in my lifetime. There is no other option for Pakistan.
Do you think that these problems that both of you have explained and dilated on, do you think that these things are heading towards a solution, or are we going to remain caught up in this logjam, this cul-de-sac, if you will? Do you see this changing?
I think at the moment, the picture is very the picture is very bleak. But when has it been very bright anyway? But we have survived. We have survived. We have the will. If we have the will to survive, then I think things will change. देखिए, एक ये पंजाबी फिल्म नहीं चल रही है कि एक हाथ बांध के बैठा हुआ और दूसरा मुक्के पे मुक्का मार रहा है. कहीं तो हाथ खुलेंगे ना, और खुलते हैं. तो मैं ये समझती हूँ कि जैसे कि मैंने पहले भी कहा, वक्त बदला है. आपके यहाँ ये जो आपके लोग इक्वेट करते हैं अपने नीड्स और अपने हकूक़ को ह्यूमन राइट्स से, ये नहीं था आज से 30 साल पहले. अब लोग ह्यूमन राइट्स के हवाले से हक मांगते हैं. और जानते हैं कि ये अब उनका एक इनएलिएनेबल राइट है और ये रियासत की जिम्मेदारी है, उसकी कोई मेहरबानी नहीं है। तो ये बातें फर्क लाती हैं। ठीक है, हमारे हवाले से क्योंकि 1 स्टेप फॉरवर्ड 2 स्टेप बैकवर्ड हुए, टाइम ज्यादा लगेगा, चेंज में भी स्लो, पर चेंज हैज टू कम एंड इट डिड कम, इट हैज कम। अब जैसे बिलावल साहब ने फरमाया कि अब कू करके देखें, मेरे ख्याल में इनको ना ही ये कहें, क्योंकि ये शायद करने को तैयार भी हो जाए, मगर ये अब जो शेरवानी वाला बिठाते हैं सामने, इनको भी समझ में आ रही है कि वक्त बदल गया है।
अच्छा, अब वक्त क्योंकि गुजर रहा है, we will open the floor to 5 questions, 4 of which will be asked by women. That's our act of positive discrimination. For the thing, 4 women and 1 man, please.
No, Ali, I want to say one thing about foreign policy and defense policy and how we absolutely need, A, politicians and then B, women to be playing their part in that. But just now at the joint session where we were coming up with a joint resolution on Kashmir, the Pakistan People's Party was the only party whose both representatives in that committee were women, Ms. Sherry Rahman and Hina Rabbani Kar, so that needs to be pointed out.
All right. Kishwar Nahid Sahiba has a question. You can be the one-man deal. Okay. खवातीन किधर हैं? बस ठीक है, फेल हो गया है खवातीन वाली चीज। I can't see there. That young lady there. Yeah.
My question is about Kashmir right now because ever since I was a kid, that's what I've heard. Oh, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Khola. I work the Bluebird Project. I'm a social activist. We work with kids, with gender minority groups. We work with, we create support groups for, women as well, and men. Okay, so what I really want to talk about over here is about Kashmir, because I've been, last night as well, I was watching this video where there were a couple of boys who were dancing in the middle of Srinagar, post-curfew, and, Jai Hind, and all that. I really want to talk about why is it that the opposition talks about Kashmir when they're in the opposition. As soon as they find, some power, some authorities, that seat that you're going for, you never really talk about it. You never talk about human rights violations. You never talk about these kids, these people who are suffering in Kashmir. And by the way, within Kashmir, there is Indian Kashmiris as well, who also are being tortured because of the special status that Kashmir has. So that's what I really want to talk about. I want to see concrete action taking place, because at the end of the day, parliamentarians, democratic people, leaders are going to talk about whatever they... Sorry.
I get the idea.
I'd like to see...
idea. I'll just paraphrase
I'd like to
that.
see some kind of action taking place.
Okay, thank you. And next, there's a gentleman at the back. And then we'll come to you.
Assalamu alaikum, my name's Usman. So the point I wanted to make, Hina and Jilani mentioned an elephant in the room. Quite frankly, there's so many elephants in the room now that the room's a veritable zoo. And sort of one of the sort of elephants in the room is religion. You talk about democracy and stuff, but what kind of democracy is Pakistan really when a religious sort of minority can't expect to become the head of state in this country? You've immediately excluded a vast sort of swath of your population. Bilawal spoke about the Pakistani People's Party and their commitment to human rights, and yet that commitment wasn't there in 1974 when the Ahmadis by the party were declared non-Muslim. So sort of my question is, moving forward, you can talk about democracy all you want for the majority, but where do you foresee a Pakistan which is democratic for everyone? For its minorities, where an Ahmadi is not an Ahmadi but a Pakistani, where a Christian is not a Christian but a Pakistani.
Thank you. One last question, the gentleman in the white kurta, right there. He's been waiting for a very long time, and then we will revert to the panelists' thoughts.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shazib Khan. I am director at Pakistan's People at Disaster Management. My question is to Pakistan's People at Disaster Management. My question is to Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Now, the panelist asked you if you expect that you are going to end up jailed like your father or grandfather, or end up hung like your grandfather, because you might end up facing the same struggle as them, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
But I don't really think so, because I think the way the modern world history is that things are getting better over time, and things that in the past were more violent than things now. For example, in the past, America dropped atom bombs and killed hundreds of thousands of Japanese. Now America does drone strikes and kills dozens of people, a handful every now and then. And in the past, America, I find the same thing in Pakistan as well. I think that...
Okay, so you think that things are getting better in Pakistan? Okay, I think...
Can I give an example first?
To the panelists, because we can...
First of all, I think, for example, do you really think that you will face the same kind of struggle as your father or grandfather, or do you think that things will be better in Pakistan's future than?
Thank you. Okay, thank you. That was all right. So questions for you, Bilawal Bhutto, about you've answered this, but you cannot take another stab at it, about how. Yes, Sherry Rahman, President of the Jilani Institute, would like to ask a question.
Thank you very much. I'm Sherry Rahman. I've really enjoyed this last session. And thank you to the panelists here. I wouldn't have intervened, but I think there's something critical all of you need to address, and that is the freedom of the press. I would like everyone's comments, including yours, Ali, as a human rights defender, briefly, that where we are in terms of how free or unfree the press is, and what leads to the press being and the media being muzzled. I have been working as a journalist when there was state censorship, and I won't go into the I here or the personal experience, and we have moved to another era where the electronic and digital platforms are absolutely huge, but they too are in a state of, shall we say, control. And where does that play into your view of how democracy leverages media, or how it works with that kind of media?
Thank you. As per your request, Sherry Rahman, I will answer this very briefly. I think that it is quite evident to everybody that Pakistan's media is facing their political class moment, if you will, which is that they are demonized. They may not be perfect, but they are increasingly demonized. They are vilified, and they are being, facing very severe curbs on basic freedom of expression, and in doing their jobs. I think by now this is not really a matter of debate. I think it is quite obvious that that is the case, and certainly as someone who has been a working journalist during the Musharraf dictatorship, and who grew up during General Ziaul's dictatorship, I can tell you that I do not remember a time since the early days of General Ziaul where there have been this level of curbs on free speech and on media freedoms. I mean, this is certainly my view, I think that there is really, you would have to be someone in denial to argue otherwise. And I would be very interested in actually meeting someone who does argue otherwise. Bilawal Bhutto, what do you have to say about media freedoms?
I wasn't here during Zia's time, but no, most certainly we've seen, as part of the attempts to control absolutely everything in this country, that media freedoms or freedom of speech, everything from a social media blogger to prominent right activists and politicians to the news that you watch on television. It's muted and cut and cancelled before your very eyes. And that is not something that should be happening in a modern democratic state, in a modern state at all. Now, what do we do about it? The most important thing is always to resist it, which we've absolutely been doing right from the outset. What we have to do now is find ways to challenge it. So the couple of things that I'm working on as far as attempting to improve our media freedoms environment. Obviously, we're in opposition and not in government. So what can we do? One thing that we're working on with other opposition parties as well is legislation. We need to pass legislation at the federal level and in the provinces that works towards protecting not only freedom of speech in more concrete ways, but also the security of journalists and the prosecution of crimes against journalists, that the journalists can do their jobs safely. The concept of freedom of the press is going to remain a dream. And then another sort of step that we want to take, the joint opposition is going to file a petition in the Supreme Court of Pakistan on freedom of the press and on freedom of speech, and we hope to be able to advocate our case over there. And given that recent judgments have talked about the importance of freedom of the press, we expect that the judiciary, whose responsibility it is to protect not only mine and yours, but every Pakistani's human rights, will protect our right to freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Having said that, this is an absolutely surreal time to be a Pakistani, because you are fed a diet of misinformation and propaganda, and it's called news. Just the truth getting out for information's sake, so we can decide what the best course of action will be, is actually difficult now. I tried to argue this in Parliament a couple of sessions ago, that the whole point of democracy is that we reach that consensus. And if everybody gets to speak their mind, you get a whole host of opinions. And of those opinions, whichever is the best opinion or whichever is the best compromise will be the best solution to the problem, and everybody will agree to that. But if you shut off everybody's, if you don't let everybody speak, and you only have the state narrative or the official narrative, then we'll never be able to address our.
Thank you.
Should we answer the question?
Would you like to address the question?
I'll just take it from where Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has left off. I think it's very important for us to understand that the Parliament strengthens itself when it plays a certain role, regardless of whether they are in the opposition or in government. Now, legislation and the process of legislating is important for us. It doesn't matter whether the bill that you table will succeed or not. What matters is that people also hear and debate on what you have presented, so that there is an understanding of what is right and what is fair and what is just, and what is the view that is opposed to the more draconian laws that we are facing. Look, as far as freedom of the press is concerned, Penda must go. As far as accountability is concerned, NAB must go. And accountability, look, I see this accountability more suspiciously not because of all the other things, that too, but if you were a genuine, you had the desire for accountability, you would not target people, you would target the system. We have not yet targeted the system. We have just targeted people under a system which we created, and I think there was a mistake that previous governments have made, including People's Party and PMLN, that they didn't see the injustices of this law and how it is going to really pollute the rule of law and due process values that we hold. So I think legislation by Parliament, even the opposition, bill after bill, bring that in so that there are debates and people learn to understand and argue what is right and what is wrong. So we would really welcome anything that the opposition wants to do in order to give a contrast to what we are experiencing right now. And I think there will be a time when people start putting pressure, regardless of the pressure coming from the political party. People will put pressure that this is what we want and this is how it should be done. So freedom of the press. Now, I think what Kishore Nahid had raised was this question of disappearances. You know, disappearances is one of the most serious international crimes. And Pakistan, I'm afraid, is this short of coming in its grips. They feel very comfortable that we haven't signed the ICC, so we are very safe from being prosecuted. They have to understand that there are other trigger mechanisms. Even for Pakistan, this is not just a crime. It's a kind of brutality. Imagine somebody dies, that's the end, and there's a closure. Somebody disappears, there's never a closure. And our courts have said, recently one of the judges of the Supreme Court said, that unfortunately the families are unable to help us in identifying who has disappeared these people. But if he doesn't know, he doesn't need to be on the bench. And if they were able to help, they would not approach the courts. There are these nameless, faceless operators who disappear you. And the victims are expected to go to the court and tell them who disappeared me. Once they are recovered, they go as a statistic in the Commission on Disappearances file as their success. We have recovered so many people. I do all these disappearances cases and I know how much the Commission succeeds in recovering anyone. When they are done with them, the people who have disappeared them, the namalooms, then those people reappear. And then the judiciary must say and come forward and ask them who disappeared you. And if they are unable to answer out of fear, they should come forward and say, we'll protect you. Have they ever done that? And they tell us that they are dealing with the issue of disappearances. Hundreds, 1,200 disappeared, we have recovered 1,210. Okay, you've recovered them. Who disappeared them? We need to know. How do you hold them accountable? There is no accountability. So there is actually impunity for disappearances. People may get recovered from time to time and may reappear, but somebody must have disappeared them, and that's a crime. We have never put anybody behind bars for disappearing anyone. So these are some of the things we, I think, need a solution for, and I'm so happy that you, sir, are now the chairman of the Human Rights Committee. I hope that these are some of the questions that you will be able to raise. Who is going to hold people accountable for disappearances? And accountability is necessary to do away with this menace. Unless and until there is accountability, this menace will continue. And when the government says that they are going to bring a law on disappearances, I would like to ask them one question. Who is going to give you the name of the person who is responsible for the crime? Who is going to do that? So what will you have to do? You will have to make it an institutional responsibility, a command responsibility, where the organization will have to be held accountable. Will they ever be able to say that and do that in a law, saying that the organization that is under suspicion will be investigated, and if it is found that they disappeared them, they will be held accountable, not because of one person who cannot be identified, who actually picked up that man in the सफेद शलवार कमीज and the सफेद टोयोटा करोला. तो अगर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को अकाउंटेबल करेंगे और कमांड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होगी, तो फिर तो हम समझते हैं कि शायद इम्प्यूनिटी खत्म हो. लेकिन अगर आप एक इंडिविजुअल क्राइम इसको बनाएंगे, तो ना हम बता सकेंगे कि किसने उठाया और ना कभी उसको सजा होगी.
Thank you, Hina Jilani. We cannot now entertain any questions. We are done. Thank you very much. We could not have had a better panel to talk about constitution, citizenship, and security. I think that it is not a matter of much debate. Hina Jilani, your work in this department is well known in these areas. Bilawal Bhutto, you have emerged as one of the signature voices today in our country on pluralism and fundamental rights. It has been a great pleasure and a great privilege, a great honor to be in conversation with both of you. Thank you very much. Thank you on behalf of Hina Institute. Thank you. I have a few announcements, ladies and gentlemen, before you.